to clear away the obstacles that we have in this society to make us live like human beings again. We must ask, how is it that black people move and what do we do? But the question in a much greater sense is, how can white people, who are the majority in America and who are responsible for making democracy work, make it work? They have never made democracy work, whether it be inside the United States, Vietnam, South Africa, the Philippines, South America, Puerto Rico, or wherever America has been. We not only must condemn the country for what it does internally, but we must condemn it for what it does externally. We see this country trying to rule the world, and someone must stand up and start articulating that this country is not God, and that it cannot rule the world. The white supremacist attitude, which you have either consciously or subconsciously, is running rampant through society today. When the missionaries came to civilize us because we were uncivilized, to educate us because we were uneducated, and to give us literate studies because we were illiterate, that has been the rationalization for Western civilization. And it moves across the world, stealing and plundering everybody in its path. Their one rationalization is that the rest of the world is uncivilized, and they are, in fact, civilized. But here's a wake-up call. The West is uncivilized. And that still runs on today because now we have modern-day missionaries, and they come into our ghettos, and they head start, upward lift, bootstrap, and upward bound us into white society. We are now engaged in a psychological struggle in this country, and whether or not black people have the right to use the words they want to use without white people giving their sanction. We maintain the use of the words black power. Let them address that. We are not going to wait for white people to sanction black power. We're tired of waiting.
Hey, look at this right here.
Every time black people try to move in this country, they're forced to defend their position beforehand. It's time that white people do that. They ought to start defending themselves as to why they've oppressed and exploited us. In order to escape oppression, we must wield the group power that we have, not the individual power that this country sets as the criterion under which we may come into. How can white society begin to see black people as human beings again? Well, it's simple. I am black, therefore I am. Not I am black and I must go to college to prove myself. I am black, therefore I am. You do not deprive me of anything and say to me that you must go to college before you can gain access to X, Y, and Z. That's only a rationalization for suppression. In order for America to really live on the basic principle of human relationships, a new society must be born. Racism must die. The economic exploitation by this country of non-white people around the world must also die. Frederick Douglass said that the youth should fight to be leaders today, and God knows we need to be leaders today. Because the men who run this country are sick. We must begin to start building those institutions and to fight to articulate our position, to fight to be able to control our universities. We need to be able to do that. To fight to control the basic institutions that perpetuate racism by destroying them and building new ones. That's the real question that faces us today. And it is a dilemma because most of us don't know how to do that well. We must question the values of this society. And I maintain that black people are the best people to do that, since we have been excluded from that society. We ought to think whether or not we want to become a part of that society. We're raising questions about this country. We are the generation who has found that this country to be a world power and the wealthiest country in the world. We must question whether or not we want this country to continue being the wealthiest country in the world at the price of oppressing everybody else. So, how can the youth in this country move to start carrying those things out? I say, by black power. This country knows what power is. It knows what black power is, because it has deprived black people of it for over 400 years. White people associate black power with violence because of their own inability to deal with blackness. If we had said Negro power, nobody would get scared. Everybody would support it. If we had said power for colored people, everybody would be for that. But it is the word black that bothers people in this country. And that's their problem, not mine. That's the lie that says anything black is bad. I am all black, therefore I'm never going to be put in that bag. I'm all black and I'm all blue. If we were to be real and honest, we would have to admit that most people in this country see things in black and white. We live in a country that's geared that way. White people would have to admit that they're afraid to go into a black ghetto at night. They're afraid because they'd be beat up, lynched, looted, cut up, etc. It happens to black people inside the ghetto every day, incidentally. Since white people are afraid of that, they get a man to do it for them. A policeman. They figure his mentality. The first time a black man jumps, the white man's going to shoot. Police brutality is going to exist on that level. The only time I hear people talk about non-violence is when black people move to defend themselves against white people. Black people cut themselves every night in the ghetto. Nobody talks about non-violence. White people beat up black people every day. Nobody talks about non-violence. But as soon as black people start to move, the double standard comes into being. You can't defend yourself. That's their narrative. We must wage a psychological battle on the right for black people to define themselves as they see fit and organize themselves as they see fit. We don't know whether the white community will allow for that organizing, because once they do, they must also allow for the organizing inside their own community. But that doesn't make any difference though. We're going to organize our way. The question is how we're going to organize our way. The question is how we're going to facilitate those matters. Whether it's going to be done with 1,000 policemen with submachine guns, or whether it's going to be done in a context where it's allowed by white people warding off those policemen. If so, then how can we start to build a new world? We must urge you to fight now to be the leaders of today, not tomorrow. This country is a nation of thieves. It stands on the brink of becoming a nation of murderers. We must stop it. We must stop it. Yeah. We are on the move for our liberation. We're tired of trying to prove things to white people. We are tired of trying to explain to white people that we're not going to hurt them. We're concerned with getting the things we want. The things we have to be able to function. The question is, will white people overcome their racism and allow for that to happen in this country? If not, we have no choice but to say very clearly, move on over. Or we're going to move over